Hello, everybody. All right, welcome back. It is time to learn how to make a brochure. Stay with me now. We are going to do this in Microsoft Word 2013, and we're just going to start by creating the layout for our brochure. Now, there are two things to consider when starting out on making your brochure, and that is the paper size. Here I'm holding a legal paper size, which is 8.5 by 14 inches, 14 across, 8.5 down, and the normal standard size paper is called letter, which is 8.5 by 11. So if I'm using a standard or a longer, if I'm using letter or legal, I've got to specify that for Microsoft Word. Stay with me on the screen now here. Notice you can go to page layout up here, and then you can change size from letter to legal. Now if you're making a brochure, you're going to basically be either folding the page in half or folding it into three, into a sort of a fold-out brochure. You can also fold it out, in addition to folding it out like a Z, like this, or you can also fold it like this, sort of like a G. If you look, that looks like the letter G almost. Or you can also fold it in half. So brochures can really take on many different shapes and sizes. For the purpose of this video, I will keep my page size as letter, which is 8.5 by 11, because I think that's what most of you guys have at home. And I think that it is enough to make a brochure out of. So I'm actually going to go ahead and fold. This is how I do it. I like to make sure that my lines are straight fold. Now I have experience doing this, so I'm just going to do it quickly. But for you, it may take some practice, and that's good. Even if you make a mistake a few times, it's good to try and to practice, and eventually you will get good at it. I promise you that. Especially if you use techniques and strategies to help you improve. So maybe I'll make a more detailed video showing just how I fold really well and how to do it really well. So if you look, you'll notice all my edges are straight, and for the most part, this is kind of a guessing game, for the most part all three panels on the flaps are the same. Okay, so now that we have this out of the way, let's go back to Microsoft Word here. Now, do not forget to zoom in and out of your page as needed. I hold the Control key and then I scroll my mouse wheel, or I can use the zoom in and out tool, which is on the bottom here. Look at my mouse. So I can zoom in and out like this with the mouse, or I can use Control and scroll to zoom in and out, up and down, up, down, up, down. Okay. So use this as needed while you're working in order to make sure that your page, whatever you're working on, is viewable. Sometimes you want to step back and look at the whole thing, and sometimes you want to zoom in because you're working on some specific part of the brochure and you want to focus in on it so you can see what's going on. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to turn this page sideways. Do you know what that's called? Yes, it's called landscape. And to do that, again, from home you change to page layout and you go to, look at my mouse up here, right there, orientation. You change it from portrait to landscape. That turns the page sideways. Okay, you might already know that, but if not, that's how you do it, and you can change it back if you want to anytime, just like this. Okay, now that I'm in landscape, the next thing I want to do is I want to get rid of these huge margins, because if you look at my mouse, you'll see that this gray area here, I cannot type outside this invisible box because I have large margins. Now I could adjust the margins manually like that, but that's tedious and it's not exact unless I'm really calculating and being careful. It's a lot of work. So rather than doing it manually, I'm going to undo all that. Undo, 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 undo. Redo that last one. Okay, I'm going to go to margins and choose narrow. And that's like a shortcut. It does it all for you. And I think a little margin's okay. So these 1/2 inch margins from narrow, 1/2 inch all around are good instead of the normal 1 inch. I think that's better. Now the next thing I want to do is divide my page into 3 columns. Now if you go to this column option, which is also under page layout, you can see 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, left column, right column, and more columns. For this purpose, correct, I will choose 3 columns. Now from here, now that I have 3 evenly spaced columns with enough margin so that when I fold my page after I print it, it looks good, I can do a lot of things. Now, let's say for the sake of argument, I am making a brochure about my books. I have lots of books, and I want people to buy them, or to come to my shop so they can see my books and then possibly purchase my books. Now this is just a pretend scenario, so let's see if I can pull that off, just so that we can see how to make a brochure. And maybe you're watching this because you're an adult with a travel agency or a bakery, or maybe you're a child who's just learning about how to make a brochure, and maybe you can help your parents in their business. Maybe you're a lot of different things, but you'll find that making a brochure is useful. Let's keep on going here. Now I could just start typing book sale, but inherently, by the way, I highlighted and went home and enlarged my fonts like that, or you can press Control-A to select, and Control-Shift and the more than symbol and the less than symbol to enlarge your text. And if you center your text using the justification button, it will center in between these 2 margins. So again, you gotta remember there's like invisible lines right here. And if you want, you can go to Shapes, Insert Shapes, and choose Lines, and just for the time being put some lines just for your imagination to help you imagine the fold line. By the way, I just eyeballed it to the middle of this margin, straight down. It doesn't have to go all the way down. I'm going to click it. Control-C is to copy. I'm going to click over here. Control-V is to paste. I'm going to drag this line over here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to eyeball it from the middle of this margin and go straight down. Now again, this is just for my imagination. You know what I noticed? I noticed that this middle section looks smaller than the 2 side sections, and I don't want that, which means my margins, while they mean well and they're the same size on all of them, I may want to just expand the middle sections a little bit. Oh, that's not going to cut it either. It's still narrower than these 2, and I know why that is. It's because these 2 margins get split in half for the middle ones, whereas here you got the full margins. So what I want to do is expand this side to half of this, and do the same thing on the far other side. Now again, I'm just eyeballing here, but this should suffice. Now if you look, I'm going to eyeball this again to the middle right there, and this one looks already kind of... See, now my eyeballs tell me that 3 are more equally spaced. So I have the same amount of space on all 3 columns now, and that's important. So that way when I fold my page evenly, or when my print shop folds my pages evenly, they're going to fold at the right spot according with my design. Now if I want them to be differently sized, that's a different story. But in this case, I want all 3 columns or panels on my brochure to be evenly spaced, or have the same size. Now at the end when I'm done, I'm going to delete these lines because I don't want them to print. Or I could leave them. They're like guiding lines to print also. Either way, I can get rid of them later, but right now it just helps me visualize what each panel is going to look like. Now there's another thing to consider here. With my paper, this panel here is not actually my cover. If you think about it, this is going to be my cover. Let's try to imagine this here. So here's my page, my 3-fold page. Now on the computer screen, you see that I'm working here on the far left side of the page. Now there's no way for that to be the cover if when I fold it, this is the cover. So remember, I have 6 panels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here, if this is the inside, then it's not the first cover page. and even if I turn it over, the first cover page is on the far right. So I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but since I'm thinking about this carefully, I'm going to want this book sale here to be actually over here if that's my cover for my brochure. I know it seems counterintuitive, but that's why sometimes with this stuff you've got to practice and you got to really think about it in order to do it the right way. Now the other thing is I could have just dragged this book sale across to here if I had done it differently. And I was about to get to this point earlier, but I changed the subject. I'm going to go to, rather than just typing book sale, I'm going to go to shapes, and I'm going to choose text box. Insert, shapes, and if I hold the mouse it says text box. Now you want, if you watch my other Microsoft Word videos, you'll see that you want to use text boxes as often as possible when it comes to designing all types of documents, except if you're writing a letter or an essay. In those cases, most of the time you don't need to use text boxes, but for situations like brochures, flyers, books, etc., text boxes are great. And if you're not sure why, you're about to find out. So book sale, and I'm going to make it as large as I can. There we go. Now I want to get rid of this box, by the way. So format, shape outline, not shape outline, no outline. So the box is still there, text box is still there, but visually it's not there, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm just doing something else right now. I'm actually just creating more pages. Okay, but I'm going to bring this up again. Now look at that. I can grab my text and move it around anywhere I want because it's in a text box. And that was the point that I was trying to make earlier about not typing on the page, but instead typing in text boxes and then having the flexibility to move your text around to the exact pixel location that you want it to be in without having any issues. Okay, so now that book sale is here, now remember I had to press enter before and possibly shift all my work if I had been writing book sale on the page, but now that it's in a text box, look at how easy it is for me to just move it to the other panel. And that is so important because later I might want to move it up a little, I might want to move it down a little, I might want to space things around, and if all my stuff is in a text box, it makes it that much easier. And if I ever want to bring the text box back, the box that was around book sale, I can go to format, I can go to a shape outline, I can put it in a black box, I can put it in a red box, I can make the box bigger, thicker, I can fill the box in with a color, any color I want. Of course I would choose a light color, but you know what, I don't even want any of that. I actually just want no fill and I want no outline. I just want the words. Book sale, maybe an exclamation point. Oh, it doesn't fit. Well, watch. If I make it a little bigger, it fits. And if I want to center it again, now again, I'm looking at the distance between this line and this letter and this edge of this page and the exclamation point, and that just kind of tells me if it's in the middle or not. And you want to do that a lot when you're working, when you want the sense of symmetry. Okay, a little more. Here's going to be reserved for pictures. I want to put some pictures of my books. So before I actually type it in here, I'm going to make another text box, and I'm going to type here some of the things we have, or what's going on, some details. We have thousands of books for sale at discounted prices. Now I'm going to use a rule of threes. Now threes means everything can be broken into 3 points to make it easier for people to digest. Now this is kind of off the topic of brochures, but it's also related. But let's see what I mean by this as I try to execute here. The law of threes says I should be able to give 3 main reasons why people should come. So let's see. So lots of books, discounted prices, and let's start with those. So I'm going to erase this. Come to our book sale. Make it a little smaller. I want it to fit though in one line. It's another visual aspect of doing this. 4, okay, down 3 points, right? So thousands, no, for tons of books to choose from. Okay, that should also fit on one line. Make it a little smaller. Great. I want it to be the same size. What's the size of this font? 16. So I'm going to go down here. I'm just going to do this 16. 16, enter. Tons of books to choose from. Discounted prices. Discount. Let's put low prices on amazing books. So far I got to keep consistent. And the third thing would be maybe to look. Alright, so tons of books to choose from, low prices on amazing books, and meet great authors. There will be authors there. Meet authors of some of the book, meet some of the best authors. There we go. So 3 great reasons. Now this is all fictional, of course, but by splitting this up into 3s and by you doing the same for your brochure, you are essentially organizing your thoughts. You're doing so many great things by doing this. And also you want the title to stand out. You can bold it, maybe even use colors. I'll go into the colors later. For now, I'm just going to get a layout in black and white. But you would do so much for the viewer or the reader when you organize your thoughts like this. You're sorting everything out for them. You're not making the page confusing. You're keeping everything elegant and really precise. And at the end of the day, you're going to create something that's hopefully going to accomplish the goal you set out to, which is to get people to come to this event or to get people to buy whatever you're selling using this brochure. Now, it's all great to just make a brochure and say you made a brochure, but it's even better to accomplish what the brochure is setting out to do. And you want to do that using precision and excellence and style and being really careful. So that's where having full control of your tools in Microsoft Word comes in. That's where it really matters that you shine and really step up your game. I'm going to pause the recording here for a second while I fish out some resources like pictures and things, and then I'll resume recording once I have some materials. That way the video doesn't get really long unnecessarily, but instead things move along at a good pace and you continue to watch and enjoy and most of all learn. Okay. Alright, welcome back everyone. So I have been Google searching a bunch of items and thinking about what I wanted from my my book sale brochure. And now I was just thinking, first of all, a brochure is really more for advertising a service or a service or a business or maybe even a product. But this is really more of an event, and I think an event would probably be advertised using a flyer, but that's okay. I'm not saying that this is a major problem. I'm just saying typically you would do a flyer that you can post on a wall and people can see at a glance, and that would be a good idea for a event like a book sale. But we're still gonna stick to it. We're gonna keep going through it for the book sale, for the brochure. So we'll stick it out, but just, you know, just a thought for you guys to consider and to think about. And maybe you can give me feedback and comments about when you think is an appropriate time to use a flyer versus a brochure versus a poster versus a booklet, etc. I have some thoughts on it, but of course I'm always open to suggestions and feedback from you, my wise and wonderful viewers. by the way, make sure that you hit that like button if you are enjoying yourself and learning, and if you want to see more. And definitely subscribe if you want to keep track of the goings on here on my channel, Dr. Whizzles. Alright, moving on. Okay, so I think the middle part, I'm going to insert another text box. I'm just going to insert a bunch of titles for each column, and maybe I can change them later if I need to, but for now, I'm going to just make a bunch of titles as like placeholders or guides, like a sort of a divide and conquer method. Prices, top books. If you're wondering how I'm doing that, I'm just pressing Control V and I'm pasting this original box. So in other words, I click here on the edge of the line and press Control C. Then if I click anywhere else on the page, I can press Control V, click Control V, click Control V, click Control V, and this just lets me use all my previous formatting settings. And to erase, I click here, press backspace. Click inside, click on the line, press backspace. Click inside, click on the line, press backspace. These are good drills to help you remember the steps and motions, because they're hard to remember at first, but when you do them a lot, you get used to them, then you eventually start to be able to do them more fluidly the way I am. So I do apologize because sometimes I do it quickly and I don't stop to explain because they're just sort of second nature to me now, but I realize some of you guys are still learning this and you may want the detailed scoop on every detail until you get it, and then after that I can sort of speed through more. So that's a good reason to watch some of my other videos too that concern Microsoft Word, because that may help you pick up more of the tools and steps and tricks that are actually useful when you're doing a lot of different things in Word, including brochures and others. So moving forward, top books, I think it was more like publishers. Top books, publishers, other different ones. So publishers, and I mentioned that authors would be there, right? So maybe authors that will be attending, I can put that here. Oh, by the way, it wouldn't let me click in this column or here because here's the last place that I have clicked on that page. So now that I've cleared that stuff, and I can just drag this back up, drag each of these back up. Now I get asked this question a lot, so I'm going to show you again. How do I get rid of the box around my text box? Like for instance, if I had a shape outline. Like some of you guys are making text boxes and there's boxes like that one. And some of you are even saying, well, I can't see format up here. Look at my mouse up here. I can't see format. How come I can't get rid of the box? Well, to answer this question, since I get asked it a lot, I'm going to answer it again. I answered it earlier in this video, but I understand that sometimes you have to answer things more than once or explain things more than once because it takes practice, it takes muscle memory. So I have no problem repeating it, especially if it's in a video, because if you're watching this video, it means you can watch it again and again and so on. And that is helpful, I find. So even if I explain it 2 or 3 times, that could be the equivalent of like 100 times if you're doing it on video. Okay, click in the box, then go to format, then you will see the formatting tools as they pertain to this box. So every box has a different set of tools that have been selected. So again, shape outline, no outline, and that's how you do it. So I got to change this, publishers, authors. And for the last page, I think since this is an event, what does every event have that's important when somebody is going to attend? That's right, date and location. Date, time, and location. That should also be on the cover, I would say. But for the sake of simplicity for now, I'll include that mostly in the back. So location, I'm going to represent that with a map. So if we look over here on my Google page searches, I just searched them in tabs and I left them open. That way I can come back to them quickly. And I didn't want to bore you with me doing a variety of different Google searches. I just did them ahead of time, and that's why they seem like they're just ready on the fly. Okay, so this Manhattan map is what I'm going to use. That's my home area. So I'm going to go here. I right click, I hit copy image. Now here, I right click, I hit paste. I'm going to make it smaller. Now this is just a map. It doesn't really have any location. Alright guys, check this out real quick. whenever you paste a picture into, and I must have explained this 100 times, but I'm going to keep explaining it. Whenever you paste a picture into Microsoft Word, you have little to no control over where that picture goes, and it makes a mess. And you're probably wondering, what is the point of even having Microsoft Word if you can't add pictures freely and easily? And that's probably why a lot of people underestimate Microsoft Word's usefulness, because of this exact moment here. I would even advise Microsoft by default in the future to have this setting on so that people aren't lost. I mean, unless you guys are watching my video, then you're not lost and you have all the knowledge and skills that other people don't have. But everyone else is out there at sea drifting without a lifesaver. Okay, whenever you paste a picture into Microsoft Word, the first thing you should do before you start moving text around or pictures around is you click on this button here, which is called Layout Options, and it appears whenever you click on a picture. See? Click Layout Options. And I did this one reflexively without even telling you, because I do it to every picture I import immediately. And let me just show you the difference. So if I put this Manhattan map here, look what it did. It moves my text around, it moves my pictures around, it creates havoc. But doing all this doesn't matter if I click Layout Options behind text or in front of text. These two options here have an effect on the pictures that you bring in, and that effect is it lets all your text be unaffected by the presence of that picture. So watch, now, look at this. Nothing is affected by the presence of this picture. And that's how every picture should behave as soon as you import it into Word. But you know what? It doesn't. You have to do it yourself. But once you learn this neat little trick, ooh, boy, is it wonderful to use and to make stuff in Word once you know how to do that. So now I'm going to paste authors here again, and I'm going to type location or event details, because I'm also going to put the time and date, so I shouldn't just write location. I can just write details. Okay? Now, this is just a map, but I'm going to do insert shapes stars, or an arrow. I should put an arrow. And this arrow should show where the event is going to be. But look, the blue blends in with the blue, and it's not really standing out. It's not what I want exactly yet. What I do want is for it to stand out. So a color that would stand out against this blue is like red or yellow. Let's try red. Shape fill. Red. Oh, that's a bit dark. Let's try that. That's brighter. Maybe we can have a yellow edge. So shape outline. Yellow. Okay. I want to rotate it a little. I wish the arrow had more attitude, because it's just too like rectangular. Maybe I can. Ooh. That looks like a price tag. Okay, this is a little better. I wish it still had more attitude. Still doesn't. I wanted like angled lines. But anyway, this is fine. It gets the job done. That's all that counts right now. So that will be the location right there. Again, this is fictional. I'm just making up a location. I may want to add some text that says like an address or something. Now I'm holding Control, and I'm going to click this one and the arrow, the map and the arrow at the same time while holding Control. Now I'm going to let go of Control, and I'm going to drag. Look what happened. I'm selecting both at the same time and moving them both at the same time. I could even shrink them proportionately at the same time, but that doesn't work as well for various reasons that I won't get into right now. But there you go. So that's where the event is taking place on the map. Authors, top books. Let's see, I found a few pictures of top books covers. I'm going to use that as a way of sort of promoting some of the books. Copy image. Okay, this happens sometimes. Sometimes you paste an image and it doesn't paste anything. You know what happens? The picture format or something is not compatible, and so what ends up happening is it doesn't paste in. And you know what you have to do when that happens? You have to find another picture. You just find another one. It's the quickest, easiest way to get around it that I know of. Sometimes it's a bummer, and if it's an absolute bummer and you absolutely want that picture, there is a way to do it. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to find a different picture because I think that's the best way to approach it. But if you really want to, you can right click and hit save image as, and then save it on the desktop, and then drag it in yourself, and that actually works as well. But I'm not going to do that here. I'm just going to right click. Oops. Let's see if we can get non-themed books. Mr. Ahmed. Hey. No, ma'am. No class. Yeah. Did an art and music. You're welcome. Can I just say something on the floor? Which class are you at? Rutgers?
Brochure.
All right. So I am just putting the right size paper in because that was my long paper. And now I have the regular size paper. And I'm going to go ahead and hit print. Watch my screen now. Hit print. And it will print the first side. Now, there's something I want to show you here because you have to get a little bit crafty if you really want to pull off this type of thing. Sometimes you have to not follow the instructions on your computer screen, and that means we're going to rotate the paper, and you'll see what I mean in just a minute. So this paper prints the first side, and then here comes the pop-up message on my screen, which I will show you. By the way, for your purpose, you may want to fill in the rest of the brochure before you print it and complete it. But for me, since I've covered all the basics that have to do with the brochure making, I've gone ahead and decided to print. So I'm not going to hit resume yet. If you look here, resume, it's telling you, it's saying just pull the paper out, put it right back in the tray, and then print, or you can press the button on the printer. But watch my hands now on the printer. So my paper came out in this direction, but really when I put it in, rather than just following the directions and taking it out and putting it in this way, I'm actually going to go ahead and take an extra step and rotate it. So watch, I am rotating the paper. And by the way, for laser printers, you put the blank side up. For inkjet printers, usually you'll put the blank side down. So you may have to try this repeatedly before you get it just right on your own setup, on your own printer, computer, etc. But this is my setup, and maybe yours is similar, so I might save you some trouble. But if not, do not panic and do not worry. I urge you, be brave and experiment and try it until you get it right. I have certainly had to do that a lot in my day, and eventually you just get it. So now I'm going to hit resume on my computer screen. Look at my mouse. And now it's going to take that paper back in, and then we'll look at just how we can get it to fold into a brochure once that's done. Let's just hope it's printed correctly first. And you know what? These lines are kind of like a guide. I didn't erase them when I was done. I left them. I think they actually don't look terrible. Even if they're there, so what? The viewer of your brochure can kind of comprehend that the lines are there to divide the columns, and so it actually kind of works intuitively now. Okay, so here we go. One side On one side I have my brochure, on the other side perfect. So nothing is upside down, nothing is smudged, nothing is looking awkward, and even with my margins, I'll be able to know in just a moment if everything was set to a good measurement or not. Let me just adjust my camera again. Okay, so let us fold. Now I'm going to kind of just fold on the lines here. I'm going to trust these lines. Do not fail me, lines. Okay, I'm just folding. They look almost perfect actually, so that's good. So our measurements on Microsoft Word on the ruler up there actually ended up being rather useful. And there we go. So now I have a book brochure. By the way, this is folded in Z fashion, and actually it works for what we were talking about. So now if I'm looking at this brochure, I'm saying, oh, book sale. Oh, here are the publishers that will be there. Oh, here are the authors that will be there. Oh, here are the details of where it is. Oh, the top books and some of the prices. Oh, this is wonderful. And even I can take this very same format and just flip this page and fold it inwards, and that may just work as well. So now, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was helpful. Watch it again and again.